Okay, I'm back. We're going to look at some actual numbers here. And I didn't have much to go off of before, but we are going to be able to go off of some actual information. And let me show you where we run into problems. Uh, all right, we're looking at CNN here. This is a common thing you see, and it doesn't tell you much of anything. If all the same people came out to vote each year, you would have no problem at all with something like this. It would be very, very informative on its own. However, you don't have that. So looking at women, here's losing 0.7 or losing 7 points compared to Biden, Trump gaining 5, Harris losing 4 points with black men, gaining 3 with black women. This is something that is, seems like it's helpful, but really doesn't tell the full story. And you're going to see that in a moment. You see right here, Latino men being flipped, etc., etc. You see the same type of thing from NBC. They're going to give you percentages. And that's all that they give you here. White men, 37%. To terrorists, 60% towards Trump. But what's the ratio of white men that showed up to vote? That is actually very important. And for this, I did go here to the one place where I could find enough percentages that actually tells you the percentage of the total vote. I'm not sure where they got that important statistic. Let me end the sharing here and share something else. And here's something I put up earlier today. And there's something in. Ooh, I messed up with the eligible. Oh, total voters is fine. No, that's right. You'll notice total voters fell by just about 5 million. The eligible voters, on the other hand, went up by 5 million as well. They're going in opposite directions there. And I have the calculation here. This comes into play that you have 2.12% increase in all that. How many people are eligible? So we start off, we're looking at 2020 for each of these characters. We're going to focus here on the left-hand side. You see, here's the total number of votes that they got in there, the percent of votes that they got in there. 2024, we're looking at the same figures there. It fell a little bit. Projected. This is if you have the same people voting in the same percentages, everyone went up similarly. That 1.02%. This is what you would expect to get. And this is a key metric to see whether candidates are gaining ground with groups or if they're losing ground with groups. Right next to it, we have the projected difference between the 2024 votes and how many actually showed up to vote. We got the percentage, and then we have the raw difference, which is how many from 2020 to 2024 at the end. But this projected difference is probably going to be a key more key than the raw difference. Raw difference, for example, suggests that with unmarried people, that we gained 718,000. But if we're going based off of what we were expecting to stay the same, we actually lost 762,722. Of course, these numbers probably shouldn't be quite this exact because I'm working off of a percentage rather than the actual number to figure this all out. The numbers we have here are still not ideal. We're probably not going to see those numbers till the ANES data comes out in 2025 or 2026. So this is the best we have to work with at the moment. You see all these groups falling. Men and women both fell. Not as bad with the women, but the turnout for men fell. The turnout for married people just plummeted versus unmarried, just fell a little bit. You see all this with who right here in this section based on marriage and the marriage and gender. You're looking at 5.7 million less married men, 2.2 million less married women, 1.7 million less unmarried men, and 4.1 million extra unmarried women. So this is a key statistic here. We're noticing that unmarried women turned out. Why did they turn out? Clearly, that has to do with all the abortion measures on the ballot. Unmarried women are very, very affected by that. They're going to turn out to vote. And they are the one age and gender group that showed up more and very significantly more than expected. White people, you do see that we do have a gain here of 300,000. It's not quite as big. You'd be misled if you're looking based on just the raw difference. Looks like it's a huge gain, 2.5 million, but it's only 300,000 extra white people here. Of course, we saw a major fall in how many black people turned out to vote despite having a black candidate. Major fall in how many Latino people came out to vote. And this could be very key in explaining things as well. Asians fell and other, which based on whatever they were using to measure that with Wikipedia, they took American Indians out of the other group for the first time ever to give us something on that. But since we're doing comparative, we stuffed them back in, which is also why over on the right you're going to see a big black bar because there's different rates that they voted for people, and it really made it untenable for me to measure that without doing a whole bunch of extra work to figure out who was averaging out properly those other votes. But white men we see dropping significantly, while white women came out significantly more than we lost in the white men. So it was these white women that really turned the vote. Black men came out more than would be expected, while black women stayed home, which is not what you would expect. You think that the women are the ones who would be affected by the abortion thing, and more likely to turn out to vote for a black female candidate. But it's the other way around. Black men came out more, as well as did Latino men, while Latino women stayed home. And the other group also ended up staying home. significantly. This is what you see with that minus 2%. I wish it was more accurate than just raw percentages, but that's why I had to work with, or such round percentages. You see, young white people did not turn out nearly as much to vote, while, well, let me say, I'm not going to say young people. This fits so closely. Gen Z, white Gen Z people did not show up to vote. Um, and then we're looking at white millennials did come out a little bit more, and white Gen X blew out the way. And you're actually going to notice this. You also have a significant gain here with Black Gen X and Latino Gen X. But then we're looking at the boomers. The white boomers plummeted. They're the ones who stopped coming out to vote for some reason. And you see quite the same thing with the Black 60 plus, which maybe this should just be called a tie because it ends up being with the 0. Because these are working off of two different numbers. That percentage of the turnout here minus that the percentage in 2020 of the turnout there. It's like I said, not ideal numbers, but they're numbers that we can use at least to get an idea. So no significant move on Black or Latino boomers, but the white boomers just stayed home. Young Black people, Gen Z, and millennials both seem to have stayed home. And then same thing with the Latinos. We're looking at Gen Z and Gen X staying home. And then when it comes to other people, you lost a more significant, almost, approaching 4 million. Maybe it was 4 million for all we know. Votes total there. And that's going to include, American Indians, Pacific Islanders, India Indians, and of course the Arab vote. Arabs most likely stayed home to go significantly here. That made a difference. Now, when we're looking here at the next section, this is a percentage that voted for Republican, Democrat for each of these groups in 2020, and the same thing in 2024. And so, did Trump actually swing voters to his side? You look at men. Men did not turn out more for Trump, even though you may see a swing being claimed on those sites. That's because Trump got fewer men to vote for him than before. Just Kamala lost even more men there. And then with actual women, Trump did get a significant boost while Kamala lost about the same number of women. When it comes to married people, Trump lost a little bit once again, while Kamala lost a whole bunch of married people. Trump gained on unmarried people and lost on, or Kamala lost the unmarried individuals. Now you notice these aren't all the same numbers like it was in the first place, because it's not going off of here. It is going off of this column here for the 2024 numbers here. We have a percentage of that. numbers are still not going to be exactly accurate by any means, because these numbers on the left-hand side are going to be, they're going to be rounded by the percentage points. Rather than getting 47.164, we got 47. And it does make a difference in accuracy. So we don't, or precision, more. So these aren't as, they look more precise than they are, but this gives us a round idea of what's going on. When it comes to married men, Kamala lost a lot while Trump lost a little. Trump lost a little with married women, and Kamala actually lost less, so she gained with married women. Then when it comes to unmarried men, Trump did gain with unmarried men, while Kamala lost with unmarried men. Trump also gained a lot with unmarried women, but so did Kamala, just not to the same extent. We start going into the racial categories. Both gained amongst white voters. Kamala actually got more white voters than Trump did, she gained over this past period. You're looking at, they both lost significantly with black voters, and Kamala lost a whole lot more than Trump lost. So Trump, did not gain with black people overall, at the very least. We're looking here with Latino voters. Trump did get a significant boost in Latino voters, while Kamala lost about double that. Maybe a little bit more than double that. Then we get the others. Trump lost, and Kamala lost even more. And this seems to be a big story. Kamala lost a lot of people that Biden had. And it's not necessarily that Trump gained these people. She just lost them. When we're looking at white men, in particular, Trump lost 2.5 or 2.6 million, while Kamala gained 3.4 million. So white men seem to be the category that grew warmest to Kamala over this past election. White women, Trump gained 2.1 million, but Kamala lost, and Kamala gained 2 million, just a little shy of that. Black men, Trump did gain with black men, not by much. It's only 403,000 votes over the entire nation. And then we have Kamala lost 2.1 million. Trump lost a little bit of his black female voters, which were never that big. So he went from 9% down to 7%. But Kamala lost a big chunk of female voters, or black women voters. They did not turn out for her. Then we're looking here, Latino men. Both of them gained overall. So we have a much bigger Latino male vote here that's coming up. They both gained significantly. When it comes to Latino women, we have a slight drop for Trump. He had a bigger amount than you would think. Whereas Kamala lost even more. Even though it shows that Trump gained 8% here, if you notice, he didn't gain that. He actually lost individual voters overall, because we have a lower overall turnout. And then with others, Trump lost a bit, which was even then fairly close, while Kamala lost a whole lot. Young white people, Gen Z, Trump actually lost 715,000, while Kamala gained 1 million. So when I'm looking here, it's not that young Gen Z voters are coming out and they're all conservative, even though Trump may have, uh, no, actually, just simply Kamala did very well with that, as well as while Trump lost a few white millennials, Kamala gained a bunch. So it's still not that many. It's 500,000. Relatively, it's a bunch, but still a small number. Now, when we're looking at white Gen X, Trump gained 5.3 million, while Kamala only gained 2.7 million. We look to the boomers, Trump lost 5 million, while Kamala lost 2.5 million, half that. Uh, Black Gen Z, 16,000 lost by Trump, which was not that high, even though he went up 5% of the vote share. The vote share of Black Gen Z voters went down enough that he actually lost. And Kamala lost even, lost a whole bunch there, 1.6 million. Another similar situation here with Black millennials, 515,000 left Trump, while Kamala lost twice as many. Now, Black Gen Z, you're looking at Trump gained 443,000, while Kamala gained about twice that, 852,000. Did I say Gen Z? Gen X. These are Gen X voters. Then when it came to Black boomers, they both lost about the same amount. Latino voters, this is Latino Gen Z. Trump did gain a bit of Latino Gen Z. And we lost a lot in, Kamala lost 2.1 million. Millennials, Trump lost 151,000, while Kamala lost 1.5 million. When it comes to Gen X, Trump gained 1.574 million, while Kamala lost 169,000. When it came to Latino voters who are boomers, 12,000 lost by Trump versus 62,000 lost by Kamala. And when it comes to others, 600,000 or 590,000, let's go with, versus 3 million lost by Kamala. But you can see once again that's strong. This is the Arab voters staying home. They did not. It's not going to be all of them. That's not going to be all 3 million, but that's a very steep drop, and that probably cost Kamala one hell of a lot that she backed Palestine. So there's a few stories we can build out of this. And that's going to come down to first off, we do see a boost in the unmarried women showing up to vote. A lot of these places where there were these votes, Florida, Missouri, South Dakota, Montana, Nebraska, you did see where a lot of these, that's probably where a lot of the growth in young women came from. And if they're in red states, they're going to end up turning out and, they'll protect their abortion rights. Then they'll turn around, they'll vote for Trump. Because you are getting voters in those particular states. It is the regressive states that you're going to end up having these sort of issues where it's going to drive these young voters in. When it comes to the Latino votes going up for Trump, there's going to be a couple things in play here. First off, we have that basically the Biden doesn't have in any sort of advantage with his border policy with Latinos. He has been more effective at deportation, as was Obama before Trump, because Trump, though he speaks hate, um, and I imagine he has caused a lot of violence to the community. He's very ineffective at actually stopping immigration. He deported a whole lot less than either Democratic president bordering him. But Biden went so far to the right on that issue, and Kamala tied herself to that. Why would that be a reason for somebody to say, "Oh, I want Kamala, not Trump"? If they are going that far to the right, they lost that advantage. No wonder you saw this jump. You're looking at probably one thing is economics. Second thing is you probably are looking at specifically the Catholic Latino voters. You know, that I do remember reading that a whole bunch of them got swept up into evangelicism in the past decade. But these are the type of voters that probably came out, and they probably came out largely in those states when you're looking at the abortion measures. They are going to come out strong against abortion, relatively, maybe not so much the Latino women, but fortunately, I didn't have for both years a breakdown between men and women in these racial and age groups. So I couldn't compare that directly, but that's probably why you saw that big boost with the Gen X ones, who were probably the ones who went in evangelical more than any other. And then you have their kids, young ones came in, and they probably voted against abortion more than average, especially the men. Because if you remember, we have fewer Latino women turning out. Whereas, the men are probably going to be very strict there, and more likely than others to end up, voting against abortion rights and then turning around and voting for Trump. Uh, these white Gen X voters seem to have just shot up out of nowhere, and it's tied to the unmarried woman. I'm wondering if these are largely, even though you're looking at 45 to 59, not much fertility, you probably do have a lot of Trumpish women who came out unmarried and decided they wanted to vote one way or another on that particular issue. I'm not sure exactly why, but these white Gen Xers came out, they voted, and they voted in favor of Trump more than any other. So that is a key demographic group there. And a lot more telling than, a lot more influential than any sway with Latino voters. The biggest thing is that Kamala lost big chunks here. You look at the younger Latino voters, they did not, Kamala lost a bunch of them, way more than Trump gained. And yeah, a whole lot more of them showed up to vote for some reason. I don't know exactly why. The bigger surprise here, which really confused me, and it's in this little black, and it's not actually in the black bar, but it's where the information would be. American Indians turned out 62% to vote for Trump, which really threw me for a loop because he just wants to take their land and open it up to all this mining and oil drilling and all that stuff. And it's like, that when he's going to deport, he says he's going to deport a bunch of people, he's not deporting all the white people. So why? I have no idea why American Indians came out so strongly for Trump, but they did. But moving ahead, of course, we have the Arab vote dropping, but the big story is how many voters just did not turn out and how many that Kamala lost. Big numbers across a bunch of different groups. Somehow, white people, came out much stronger to vote. So she did gain white voters and gained more than Trump did. She did have that big significant shift amongst white men. White women came out fairly equally for both Kamala and Trump comparatively, but she lost big thing. Like black women, she dropped massively. Um, I actually want to double check that number really fast. I am not sure that 44 should be there. Give me just a moment. That's for 2024. And I'm looking at 2020 there. It's 2024. Yeah, I messed up that number pretty bad. Let me go fix that. Oh, you heard that I had a cheat on there. Okay, so let's reframe that. She lost not 6 million, but 1.6 million, which is a lot more than Trump lost. Trump maintained his groups better, other than old white people, though they both hemorrhaged like crazy, and I think Trump still had an advantage in both elections. Yeah. But a lot of boomers didn't come out for Trump. I'm not sure the exact reason why. That's one of the big stories is that boomers just did not come out to vote like they did. Maybe that has something to do with not having those extra options for voting that you had in 2020. A lot of states took that away because COVID's over. And so boomers are more likely to be sitting there you know, in some sort of situation where it's hard for them to get out to vote. So maybe that really hemorrhaged the vote and actually hurt Trump more than you would expect. But Gen X really came out, and other than the black voters, they really seem to have um, favored Trump, not Kamala. And that is pretty damning. Um, Let's see if that could drive me nuts otherwise. But when you're hearing these stories about, oh, Kamala just moved too far to the left and she lost, she didn't. She's moved very, very far to the center, moved over. We can see that you have this huge change in Latino votes, and that probably comes largely from the fact that the deportation issue is not as big of an issue to differentiate between the Democratic and Republican candidate. She lost that by going so hard on that. I don't know if that's why she gained so many white men, but that can't be right either. I got some numbers messed up. Okay, so we're not gonna, but you can go look, see which numbers I screwed up on, because obviously you can't have 107%. 37, not 40s. I was doing too much at once, and It's a good thing I am not doing that. Okay. And that's going to completely change the dynamic here. Change that to red. Oh. But Trump still lost more men than he did women. Um, did we mess up on black men here? Yeah. What? How did I get off by that one section? I seem to have screwed up. So let's get that fixed really fast. Obviously, this is over 100% as well with Latino men. Should be 60 and 48. Okay. And so we are looking here. Yeah, she did lose Latino men here. But lost a whole bunch more Latino women. And I'm going to tell you, Latino women probably were turning out largely for the we're going to defend immigrants stance overall. Didn't see the difference, didn't turn out. Men did turn out, though, and they turned out for Trump. And these may be men who thought, oh, I like Donald Trump's policies better, other than the deportation, and didn't go. And they just were not coming out for Trump. But we do see Kamala hemorrhaging votes. She did gain with black men. Let's go change that color. Now that we got proper numbers in here, I do apologize for that. You double check these, triple check these if you're doing academic publishing. I was just trying to throw this up in a day. But you see the hemorrhaging of voters. This is I did not give people enough to vote for, so they stayed home. You see both men and women alike, Kamala lost in pretty even percentage of them. Trump somehow gained with women, and I have no idea how he possibly gained with women like that. But probably a lot of gain in specific red states. We're going to take a look here really quickly at stop sharing that, and we are going to go back. Now, there's certain states that you have this voting in: Arizona, Florida, Missouri, South Dakota, Colorado, Maryland, Montana, Nevada, New York, and Nebraska somehow had two. So if we go look here, Nevada, we do have a significant jump of 5.6% from 2020. Much higher turnout, though that may have something to do with growth. Because I'm looking here, it's it might be looking at exact numbers, but this is the only thing I saw that was giving me turnout numbers without me hand typing it in. You see turnout, for some reason, really high in Idaho, Wisconsin, which is another swing state. Idaho is not. I don't know what happened with Idaho. Georgia, which is, you see some growth in Michigan, Pennsylvania, that are swing states. Wisconsin, I think I mentioned already. But let's go through. Arizona, we see a slight drop. Florida, we see that slight drop. Missouri, Mississippi. MO. Here's Missouri. Wish it was an actual map instead of this, but we actually had a drop of 1.5%. South Dakota, growth of 1.5%. Colorado dropped 2.1%. Maryland, drop of 4.6%, which is rather significant. Montana dropped 0.2%. We looked at Nevada, which is up 5.6%. New York, down 7.7%. Nebraska, here we go, down 2%. Now, most of these states did not drop as significantly as a lot of the states that didn't have it. Look at California, they dropped 17.2%, 8.4% in Oregon, 5.6% in Washington. Illinois dropped by 9%. Ohio dropped by 4.7%. You do have some slight odd increases in places like Texas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina. We understand because that's a swing state. Delaware went up 1.4% somehow. For some reason, more people wanted to vote for Kamala than they did for Biden in Biden's home state. Virginia, yeah, that's slight 1%, but for the most part, you do see that you have less votes lost in the redder states that had this on the ballot. That's where people turned out. That's going to explain a lot of, or it'll explain a lot of Trump's gains, or apparent gains, where he lost less. It's not that he's popular, it's that you got more voters out who are like, hey, I want to vote on I want to vote for abortion rights, or I want to vote against abortion rights. You probably have both of those happening, and then they both turn around and vote for Trump because it's in a red state. When you look at places like New York and California, you're not going to have that same shift. It's going to vote for any extra voters going to go vote for Democrats most likely. They didn't turn out. Why didn't they turn out? It's because Kamala ran to the center. It's not that she went too far left, as you keep hearing, and it's very, very important to note what is being said, that somehow Kamala ran too far left. What it's saying is that the Democrats are chomping at the jaws. They want to drop LGBTQ people. They want to drop immigrants. They probably want to drop any minority group whatsoever. And that is what we are looking at. And it's going to be even worse because they do not turn out. When voters are not going to turn out for that. Biden ran a little bit more on the left, which is why you see that he did do something. Was able to beat Trump, and it was our highest turnout election because people really feared Trump, and Biden promised a little bit because Bernie really pushed him on that. Because he did screw Bernie out of the nomination. Bernie would have stomped Trump very clearly with long coattails. But the Democrats don't want that, just like they don't want it now. So many of them would rather Trump, another MAGA win as opposed to Trump winning. But that's why you see amongst black voters, you have this big drop off in black youth voting for Kamala. This big drop off in Latino youth voting for Kamala. She's not reaching out to them. That's why you have this giant drop in this other group not voting for Kamala. When you are not taking care of people, you are going to lose significantly. Um, there's nothing that seems to suggest that I've seen anywhere that she gained any significant number of moderate voters by going this route. All you did is you blurred the difference. Um, you're looking at trying to get these swing voters. You get some Republicans just going to vote Republican no matter what. You have Democrats who are going to vote Democrat no matter what, even if they're very close to the other on issues. And then you have people who vote based on the stupidest shit you've ever heard. I have had, I've spoken to a black woman who told me she would not vote for Barack Obama, and it's because he had squinty eyes. That was her sole reason. It wasn't about his platform, his character, or anything like that. She felt you can't trust him because he had squinty eyes. That was her reason. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I didn't vote for McCain or Romney either. I voted third party, but even, I can look at it's like, hey, I don't like him either, but my reason is much different than your reason for not liking him. Mine had to do with him being too far right wing. Yours is about how squinty his eyes are. That is the type of thing that swing voters vote on. They'll do it on that based on how firm they heard the handshake was, or maybe they did shake a hand. They'll vote based on whether they think a name sounds presidential. That's what they vote on. You're not going to convince those voters. All she did was alienate her base. And that's why you had this huge drop in men turning out. You have this huge drop in, black people, Latino people. Look, Latino people, you have a significant drop. You look just the raw number, it's 2.2 million. 2.6 is what you'd expect if everyone grows equally. Of course, I didn't calculate changes in demographics. Probably have this be higher as well as with black groups. That's the whole reason why, that issue where white people are going to become a minority, or at least not the majority. They'll still be, I guess. But you have this huge drop because of that. And oddly enough, you may have Latino voters might be a firm Trump or MAGA thing moving forward, where you do have that at least that significant gain. If he doesn't deport them all, because he wants to denaturalize people and whatnot, and you're throwing away your own voters at that point, because they're not turning out for the Democrats because Democrats abandon them. That's what they do. They think they're going to get the edge by abandoning voters. They take them for granted. They still got to vote for me because I'm not as bad as the other. Nope, they don't turn out. And that is what we see. We see that the unmarried woman came out in droves. The Gen X came out in droves. And we got to give Gen Z another name. Not Zoomers. That's stupid. But we got to find something that's characteristic about them, and name them that. And I'm going to stop mixing up Gen Z and Gen X like that. But yeah, it's not that horribly significant except for Gen X Latino voters. You do have that slight increase in young Latinos, but it's dwarfed by the fact that they just didn't turn out for Kamala. And this gain very well may be tied to that drop as well. Not in that they're shifting to the right, but she took away that key difference between the two parties and made it so easy for them to do that. But yeah, Jen is coming out in droves to vote. And that's something that we got to pay attention to. They're replacing the boomers very quickly. And looks and that is something that's interesting. It's only the white boomers that dropped out significantly, though. Like I said, you have a very relatively even with Black and Latino who just basically stopped voting for Kamala. Um, yeah, here's the Black. It's much more even with the drop with Black voters, but it is a lot big part that they're just not voting for her. And it's because they are the Black boomers are the ones who just vote Democrat no matter what. To have that drop at all really says something about not providing something, because you shouldn't be looking at a drop like that um, with Black boomers as the Democratic Party candidate. It's much more understandable here. But I do want to stress, even with that all said, that we do know that Biden did have an electoral map of what would be expected if he ran when he first started. And it was looking at Trump getting 400 electoral votes. So Kamala still did better than Biden. It was a good move for the Democrats to get rid of Biden and put her in charge. But why in the hell Biden would try to run again and abandon his transitory presidency when he knew he was basically handing a landslide victory to Trump, it boggles the mind. We are just lucky that he dropped out there, because you would be looking at a complete defeat of the Democratic Party, and you probably look at 60 some seats in the Senate for the Republicans. I'm not checking the actual numbers, how many were up for grabs for each side, but you would have a much more significant shift where they had control if Biden had continued. So it's not that Kamala is a worse candidate by any means. It's not, it's not even that she's a bad candidate herself. It's what she ran on. It's that platform. It's that option to move right. It was the Democratic strategists who were telling her to drop all their weird stuff, to be nicer, that she's going to move to the right to get these swing voters, and the same ones that are saying, hey, let's abandon trans people right now. Those are the people who really screwed things up royally. It wasn't, anything inherent with Kamala. It was these Democratic strategists. And they really need to be run out of the country. But it does also bring in something very important. I think we do need to have a full video on this where I actually have a script, because I have been rambling quite a bit here. But the very fact that the Democrats are gearing towards abandoning even more groups much more severely, to say, hey, we are too pro-trans when we wouldn't say a damn thing about trans people. Didn't have any trans speakers at the convention, anything like that. But, we went too friendly with the trans people by being neutral. You know that trans people aren't going to turn out to vote for the Democrats next time. You know that any of their allies, you're going to look at a whole bunch of the LGBTQ community that isn't trans, is going to turn against the Democratic Party. They're not going to be motivated to turn out because we know where they're going. We know what the strategy is coming up. This is even more important. The Democratic Party is a dead party. Do not waste your time with them in 2026. Do not waste your time with them in 2028. Watch my Party for Parties video. That's where you want to go if you want to move forward. You need to create something independent of the Democrats. You need to have the broad support, and everybody has to be on the same page. This is the wake-up call. This is an opportunity. They don't come often. This is the time for everybody to move together. If the problem where you run into problems is that you keep getting people saying, "Oh no, I'm not going to do that," and it's sort of like everybody goes in shifts. You work on third party stuff for a while, then you come out and you start working against third parties, and it seems to be at certain ages that you have big jumps. We need everybody together to look at how much the Democratic Party has failed, how it has failed to learn from its own failures, and is moving further in that direction where they are not a viable party. They cannot win an election on a national scale at all. You may win a seat here and there, but they are doomed to keep falling for a long time unless you want more MAGA rule. You want to fall under straight up Nazism. While we have a chance of having more elections, we need to build a better party, one that is getting rid of all these neoliberals who keep fucking things up, who keep jumping towards the corporate parties. Now is the time. Okay. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I can have something more soon, more for you guys soon. I do apologize for the rambling. I spent time looking at numbers, figuring out the equations for Excel, and then and lost it this weekend. But thanks for tuning in. Feel free, give a like, a share, give a complaint about how rambly I was in the comments. It'll help anyways.